What's up, everybody? I'm Bobby, that's Chase, and this is the Casual Hour, and we want to talk to you about video games. It's August 14th. We're recording episode 387 live on Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram. Chase, speaking of video games, how important is it to beat video games?
I think beating games is good. I think people should try to beat video games.
Well, I'm glad.
I know not a lot of people do. I mean, there's like the data that barely anybody gets through a game, right?
That's true. And the real data is coming to you live from Threads.
Okay. The realist of data.
The realist of data. Over on the gaming community of Threads, which is a great, cozy place you should go and check out if you're looking for any refuge from some of the other spots.
It's a great place to just chill, right?
Is that what I'm doing? Oh, I'm just chilling. Fucking Discord, man.
You are just chilling. Come on, man. Rookie mistake.
According to our data from Threads, 78% of you think it's kind of important to finish video games. And there's a lively discussion around just how people gauge maybe at one point in time, like, hey, completing a video game back when you had just a few was important. And I think we've talked about it. I mean, shit, we've been podcasting, since 2016? And every week We're trying to talk about new video games. So you and I play them at a clip where we're going through them, and we're definitely trying to give folks an insight to it.
Yeah.
But I think I've gotten less, that's Mex in the chat. Somebody actually I met on Threads. A very cool person. You should go follow them here on Twitch. They're doing some really cool stuff for sure.
I think the problem, there's a couple problems with this. One is there are some games that there's a lot of games these days that you don't finish.
And there's a lot of subscriptions for them.
Right, yeah, like Destiny's out there. People don't finish Destiny. Yeah. You finish the contents that's there, and then they'll make new stuff.
Sony finished Destiny.
Well, fair enough. MMOs, you don't really finish them exactly. Yeah. Fortnite, you don't finish. You don't finish, Overwatch or like these hero shooter kind of games. You don't finish Pal World exactly. Like you just kind of keep
Lord knows I
palling around.
I tried. I got pretty far into it.
So, like, there's a bunch of these games where the idea is that you just sink a bunch of time into it. So you're just, what is finishing at that point? And also, I like from one of my favorite games, Her Story. Just the idea that you're finished when you're satisfied.
Fair.
You could 100% a game like Her Story and watch every single clip and use all the specific words you need to see all those clips and know what's happening. But the idea of like, do you know what happened at the end of Her Story? Like, have you pieced together the mystery? Did you come up with something? Because the game is never going to just hand it to you to tell you, yes, you won. It's a detective game in that you have to put the pieces together and come up with a solution that you feel comfortable with. And then, if you want to go online and see what the quote unquote real answer is, and check forums or something, you can. But like there is that idea of play until you are satisfied. And I think there are lots of games out there that also fulfill that requirement too. Would I have had a much better time with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth if I didn't finish the game and just stopped when I was satisfied?
Listen, you should have done what I did.
Probably.
Stop playing that fucking thing. Well, no, I think it's an interesting question, and it's one that you and I've wrestled with. And for me personally, I feel like if there's a game that means something to me, narratively speaking, I need to see it through. But objectively, like I've never been like an achievement hunter. I get joy out of like, oh, cool, that's a rare achievement. I wasn't trying for it, but that's fun. And I think it's one of those situations where I feel if it's worth my time, which is limited, and it might not look like it because I'm doing this shit all the time, but managing a family and work and trying to find time hour by hour in the evening to do stuff. It's more about, am I getting fulfillment, to your point? So, I think like chat's talking about Ghost of Tsushima. Like that's a game that I still have not finished, but I admire it greatly. I think it's a beautiful game. It offers a lot of, I got what I needed from that game to know what it was doing and to feel like I put time into it. I think that's a fair call out.
Yeah, I also think there's a difference between completing a game to a satisfaction level for you as just a person, and somebody who is trying to review a game or talk about a game critically, to have not seen. And we talk about games critically, but we're just two dumbasses on a podcast. Like nobody's paying us to do this. I don't have to feel the pressure of actually finishing a game if I don't want to. But if you're writing I guess you're not writing a magazine article. They don't make those anymore. And you're not really writing on a website. They don't really make those either. But if you're professionally telling me if there are games that I should and shouldn't play, I kind of expect you to have finished them and be able to tell me, if they come to a satisfying conclusion or not. And so I think there is a bit of responsibility in that. But there's also just sometimes a game sucks, and that it sucks 10 hours in, and you don't need to play another 30 hours to know that it sucks. It just sucks.
Walk away.
And you can
Quit.
be done with it.
But I got news for you, Chase. There's some games we're going to talk about tonight that I don't think suck at all.
I think there are a couple games that I'm going to finish. Yes.
So tonight is a What You've Been Playing. We were actually off last week. I was out of state traveling for work, and we're back into it. We've got some fun stuff to talk about. We're going to be checking in on Dungeons of Hinterberg. Chase has got some updates around SteamWorld 2 Heist, which I cannot wait to talk to him about. I've been waiting to talk to him about it. I'm excited to talk more about, well, not more, but tell you about Thank Goodness You're Here, Chase.
I mean, yeah, you do. Thank goodness that I'm here.
The
show would be very lame without me.
It would be just me being an idiot.
Nobody you mean the video game Thank Goodness You're Here?
Yeah. And then
I see. Okay.
I did a little something myself that I would love to get your thoughts on, and I'll save that for later. But I got to test out a video game, and I need your opinion on it.
Are you allowed to talk about it if you were testing it out? You have to sign some NDA or something?
I'm actually, that's one of the reasons why I'm like, can I say that I'm going to check on that while you are telling everybody about some of the games that you've been playing. So why don't you get us going here on what's new with you?
All right. I'm going to change up the order on you slightly.
Damn it.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. I want to talk about Ouros first.
Cool.
Which is a game that came out today. I think it came out today. Might have came out yesterday, but I think it came out today. Ouros, Ouros, is a game on mobile. I played it on my iPad, but it's iOS, Android, that kind of stuff. I saw Pocket Gamer tweeted about it. They wrote up a little story about it, and I thought it looked cool, and so I wanted to give it a shot. It's $3, and the whole idea of the game is that you have a circle, or you have a shape on the screen, and that circle has little points on it, and you can drag those points. So, Bobby, you went to design school. You've used a Photoshop before, yes? You're familiar with Photoshop tools like the pen tool?
Yes.
Okay. So you know how sometimes it's fun to go in on that Photoshop or like another platform like that, and just kind of play around with those points,
the anchors,
and try to like the anchor points. You try to make shapes with them, or you pull it in some way and it gives this kind of weird bend to something. You go, oh, that's kind of interesting. It's like somebody just made a game around that. So the idea is that you have this kind of starter shape with these anchor points on it.
I'm looking at that now.
Yeah, so they start you with anchor points, and then they give you a number of other points in the level, in the map, that are just like a single screen level location. And you need to bend those anchor points to bend the shape into a form that allows this this like ball that is rotating around, that's like going on this track. It's like using the shape as a track that is going around. They have
numbers that I'm looking at here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to place it in the order of the numbers?
Yes. Yeah. The ball that goes around the track has to hit those numbers in order. So you start out, you have a circle, and it gives you 3 different points on there, and you bend your stuff to make the circle fit that shape, and then the little ball goes around the circle and it hits 3 things in the order, and you go, great, okay, cool, I won. And then you go to the next puzzle, and it gives you the same circle, and it has the same points, but the ball is now rotating, clockwise, but the numbers are counterclockwise. So you're like, oh, how do I deal with that? So
Okay.
using the points, you're able to just flip the circle. You take one anchor point, you overlap it, and then you bring the other one down, and it makes it go backwards.
Yep.
Apparently, they also teach you in a later level, you can just tap the screen, and it kind of makes a DJ scratch sound, and the circle and the ball goes the other direction. It just changes directions
cool.
on there. So you can do that.
That does happen also, like if you're using one of the transform tools and you go too far one direction, it just kind of flips it the other direction.
Yeah,
so
totally. Yeah. So then they get more complicated puzzles where now you have to start bending the original shape. It's not just a circle now, but you're like bending it into not just an oval, but now it overlaps, and it's not 3D. It's all top down. But this idea of like, okay, well now, the lines have bent in these weird like pen tooly, transform tooly, flash almost ways where you're like, oh, that's kind of a weird shape that I got, and maybe I can use these anchor points to hit these different parts. Because then they'll also give you obstacles of just, here's like a big red square, kind of like Celeste, where it's like you can't go through this. So okay, now I have to bend my shape. So now I have to bend my shape in such a way that it hits all those points, but it never goes through that red box area. And I think it's just got some really neat and intuitive design ideas in it, and it looks really gorgeous.
I missed this because I was trying to figure out if I can talk to you about a video game. I'm sorry. Where are you playing this at? I heard you say
playing this on my iPad, but it's on any mobile device. It is $3.
Nice. It looks like it's on Steam. It came out in May on Steam, and you can get it for $5. But I think I think this is a perfect iPad game. Just looking at it here.
Yeah, it feels really intuitive, and I'm, it's certainly a game where you can get stuck, but you can just reset the shape in the top right corner. Really ambient music going on. It's very chill. It's very colorful. The line is kind of a big rainbow of colors, and you're always on like this space kind of background. Man, it's just nice. It's just a nice thing to play.
I've been so tempted for stuff like this by those foldable phones that are out there. Like the Google phone just got announced yesterday. It opens up into an 8-inch tablet that is basically the iPad mini. Yeah. And I think the idea of like having something like that to where it's like, you know what, I got time, I can open it up and play something like that. Like there is also the emulation of like a DS on it. It's kind of fun. Anyway, this looks really cool. Ouros, it's made by one person. It looks like Michael Cam. It's on itch. Looks like it's on Mac. It's on obviously mobile and tablets, but very cool looking game.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's going to be something that I will be playing in my free time, when I'm not next to my computer or my Switch or something like that. But it's for $3, just a comfortable little experience. I'm glad I saw it on social media, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll grab that, and ended up having a good time.
I won't be able to talk about it, so I'm just gonna let you know right now.
Okay.
I've been playing Mecha Break.
Okay.
And actually Mex that was in chat here, he's been putting out a lot of content on it, so I don't know if he's got more of a partnership with him there, but I saw a little bit saying that there is some NDA stuff. I don't recall signing one, so I'm just going to err on the side of caution and say,
we'll talk about it later. Yeah, there'll be time.
Hey, I'm playing with Mex, Chase.
Well, Bobby, I am also playing with Mex. If you want to know a game that is maybe the diametric opposite of of Ouros, it is SD Gundam G Generation Cross Rays. And Bobby, I can already see you. You're like, no, you've played that game before. We've talked about that one. And no, Bobby, you silly dumbass. That was SD Gundam G Generation Genesis, which is a completely different game.
Mistake.
Everybody knows that.
My mistake. Which one is it? So just tell me out here. This is what I need from you anytime you talk about mechs. Is this a grid-based, turn-based strategy game?
Yes.
Okay. Are they chibi mechs?
Yes. That's what the SD stands for. Super deformed.
They're trying their best. Okay. All right. So you have played this before.
I have played this series before. I have not played this specific game. So the one before this, SD Gundam G Generation Genesis, is all about what's called UC Gundam, which is the Universal Century. It's kind of one timeline. It's very Star Wars in that all of it takes place in one single universe. Everything kind of affects everything else. And Crossrays, the newer game, it's not a new game by any stretch. I've owned this game for a while and have been sitting on it for a while.
Yeah, this is the 2019 release, Chase.
Yeah. This game is basically all of the alternate universe Gundams smashed together. I don't love most of the alternate universe Gundams, but I've watched enough of
by Bandai,
now.
Right?
Yeah, published by Bandai.
Okay.
Who's is it like Tom Creates or something like that?
Tom
is the
Creates,
developer?
Yeah.
So basically what you do here is there's a story mode where you go through the different Gundam shows, or some of them are based on mangas, or some of them are based on movies. But you go through the different stories, and they're broken out into, 2 to 6 levels per story. And the fun thing is that you're able to bring in mechs from the other shows, and you can fight with them as well. So you're doing the story stuff, but you're also, having fun with your own characters and your own Gundams that you're bringing in from all these different universes together. It's fun for me. It definitely is an acquired taste. This is not something anybody should go out and play.
Yeah,
I'm not advocating that, Bobby, you played this game. Please do not play this game. You'll not have a good time.
I like the idea of a strategy-based game with these characters. I think that's really cool. Is there one that's more like is there a Gundam game that's more like XCOM rather than like a Fire Emblem or what we're seeing here?
Yeah, not really. That would be cool. I think that would be really neat.
Well, I'm thinking Phantom Brigade is close, but it's not like what you have here by any stretch. And I'm already thinking about maybe it's because we're playing SteamWorld Heist and just melee versus ranged and what some of that stuff would look like. And I don't know, man.
I mean, some of that is here. Like your different units have, some of them have different ranges. So this guy's got a big mace, and he needs to be right up close. He needs to be in the square right next to him. But this guy has a big cannon, and he can shoot from 6 spaces away. Here's the thing. Here's what you really need to know, Bobby, to tell you what you need to know.
Yeah, lay it on me.
This is just like an extension of Super Robot Wars. It is not a Super Robot Wars game.
Ask, is it Is it in that? Is it adjacent? Is it unofficial?
Yeah, it's definitely adjacent. It is official. Like it's in a way more official because it's it's made by Bandai specifically with the license, whereas Super Robot Wars is another company that gets the licenses for all these different things and makes one story. The thing with Super Robot Wars is that it's taking from those different franchises and is building its own kind of crossover story, whereas this game is recreating each of the individual stories.
Gotcha.
That would be the biggest change. A lot of the mechanics feel very similar, but one of the other big differences is just the amount of units in here. There are so many more units that you can play with in this game.
Super Robot Wars?
Yeah, because that you're picking up, you'll get I don't know, maybe 50, 60 guys over the course of a Super Robot Wars game. Sure. Maybe that's a little high, but you get quite a few. But this is because it's all mix and match, and they don't have to build dialogue or they're not really telling stories with your individual units. They're telling the overall story of a thing and then just letting you do the skirmishes. There are hundreds of different units, hundreds of different characters that you can recruit, and you can put any pilot in any Gundam and have a good time. So I've specifically been saving this game because I had not seen a lot of these shows when I bought this game first in 2019. I'm playing this on the Switch, which it is not
is it
officially fine? Yeah, it plays just fine on the Switch. I've had a couple of crashes a couple of times, but not because it's chugging or anything like that.
Yeah.
but also this was an imported game for the Switch. It did officially come out in North America on Steam, so you can. In fact, I think it's on super sale right now. There was like a big mech sale that was going on.
It's $20 right now, 50% off.
Yeah, and you can get all the DLC stuff, and there's plenty of game there. There's just a lot of hours that you can waste. But I'm playing this on Switch, and having a really good time with it. But the thing was, when I first bought this in 2019, I hadn't seen any of the shows that were part of the alternate universe of Gundam, because I've been following along to a podcast called The Great Gundam Project, where they watch 2 episodes of Gundam every single week. And they just hadn't gotten there yet. And I watched
this
the
one
shows
that you've been trying to get
watched.
Johnny to watch.
No, I'm just trying to get Johnny to watch Gundam at all, and we've been very slowly going through the series ourselves. But this is separate from that.
Okay.
But now in 2024, I've seen most of these shows. The only one I haven't seen, if anybody out there is listening and cares, is Iron Blooded Orphans. I know that's a really good one. I'm still waiting for the podcast I listened to catch up with that one. But now that I've seen Gundam 00 and I've seen Gundam Seed, unfortunately, and I've seen Gundam Seed Destiny, even more unfortunately, now I feel like I can go into this game and play these stories and not have to get spoiled for what happens, and be able to enjoy, oh yeah, hey, that's the Gundam from that thing, I really like that unit, I'm gonna use that guy.
Cool. That's always a fun connection to have.
Yeah, so that's been fun. Also, the podcast that I was listening to has taken a break at the moment. One of the guys went into the hospital.
Oh shit.
He's okay. But they kind of took a hiatus for a while, and while they were taking a hiatus, I'm like, well, I can't watch Gundam right now. So the next best thing, I guess, is like, oh, I can just pick this game up and get my fix for it. So I will keep tooling around on this. It's not something I'm going to bring up on the show anymore. Nobody cares. But I will say, if you're a Gundam fan and you're like, oh, maybe I should buy this, it's on sale on Steam or whatever. You really want to have known the shows. you want to have you want to understand like what's going on in the show, because even though the game is kind of retelling the stories, they're not doing them great. And they have to skip out on large chunks because you're taking like a 50 episode show and you're scrunching it down into like 4 levels. I don't think they do a very good job recreating the shows, but at the same time, there is also just so much goddamn talking that every time I jump into a level, I'm like, oh, well, I'm excited to play like my 30 or 40 minutes of one of these levels, and there'll be like, oh, well, first you got to get 20 minutes of somebody just talking at you for a while, and you're like, man, I don't think you're doing a very good job of this story stuff, and yet you somehow found a way to do a lot of it, and man, I don't want to skip through because then I'll be even more lost, but I really wish you could condense this a little faster and just let me get to the action.
Well, I think that was one of the biggest things I took away from those games is there's a lot of expose with, getting to the meat sometimes. But
oh yeah, they're gonna give you that exposition dump, and yeah, that's how it works.
I have a favor, Chase, to ask of you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Would you be opposed to us getting through anything that's not SteamWorld Heist, and then
that's fine? Yes.
Are you cool with that?
Yeah, go for it. Because we've both played that one, so we're that's going to be a larger discussion.
That's the one. Like, I just want to kind of sit with you and talk about, because I'm really taken back by it, and I just want to really give it its flowers and its space on the show. And SteamWorld Heist is a very important game for you, and you've got a whole awesome series that I hope you link out and people can go watch to get caught up on it. Briefly here, I'll let you know, Dungeons of Hinterberg continues to surprise and delight. I really enjoy some of the quality of life stuff in that game. You've got 2 spell slots, and you get to a point where you can just start to swap them out, like abilities you get from other things you can bring over with builds, which is fun. I'm really enjoying the upgrades and just the tone and the narration behind that game. Like, I think that you and I were spending some time before the show just kind of lamenting about corporate life, and I think this is a game that meets you there and says, yeah, working, it's a drag. Yeah. Live life, live an adventure. So that game's great. It's still out there and everything. I am going to finish that this year. Really enjoying the combat with it. It's an absolute delight. But as I teased earlier, I saw this game mentioned a few times, and it's sitting at an overwhelmingly positive review right now. And I'm just going to read you what I wrote about it before I get too deep into it. But I said, "Thank goodness you're here is one of the most wonderfully absurd games I've ever had the pleasure to play. Comedy is so hard to pull off in games, but this one felt genuinely funny. The less you know going into it, the better, but I definitely hope you find the 2-ish hours it takes to meet all the lovable weirdos in the bizarre northern English town of Barnsworth." And I don't think I've done this year, so I'm going to do it now. I am you are sanctioned to play this video game.
Okay.
It's on the Switch. It will take 2 hours of your life, and I saw somebody from a well-respected site for you and I that said this is the most fun they've had with a game basically since Jazz Punk. And you just played that, and I think this will definitely do what you're looking for. So I'm going to do my best to keep a lot of this game sacred for you, Chase, but what I'm going to do right now, so you have an idea of what I'm talking about, is ask you to check your phone. I just sent you I sent you 4 screenshots out of context of the video game to kind of give you a vibe of what I'm talking about.
Do you want me to describe these screenshots to the
Please?
To the
I think that would be very helpful.
Okay. The first one appears to be a picture of a desk that has a rotary telephone on it and maybe like a cash register, like an old-timey cash register. And there is a tiny yellow man who is standing on top of the counter. Like he's like a Smurf size. And then behind the counter appears to just be one incredibly large face with a he's got that ball chin. I get cleft chin, but like it just looks like a pair of balls on there.
Yeah.
And like a dude with a mustache. It actually reminds me a lot of like one of the characters on Regular Show.
Sure.
So that's fun. That's fun. I like that. The guy who's all face appears to be a little distraught. So that's photo 1. Photo 2 appears to be 2 buildings, and there is a clothesline going between the buildings, and hung up are some socks and a t-shirt and some underwear. And then also our tiny yellow man from before is also hanging on one of those clothespins as he just hangs there. And there's a billboard behind him that says "Peens."
Yeah, they're
peens for your gout.
Yeah, peens and beans mixed. Peens. Come on, keep up.
Oh, sure, of course, absolutely. How silly of me. Yes, peas and beans.
Peens.
That doesn't sound like a great combo. All right, that was 2. The third is a bar scene. And guy who was all face seems to be here, but now he's less face. And he's sitting at a bar drinking with a bunch of other older looking dudes, and then our tiny yellow guy is inside one of the beers.
Yeah,
and like the foam of the beer is almost overtaking him. There's 2 pull tabs here for the beer. One says "Classic Pint of Beer," and the other says "Barnsworth Bitter." Okay, that looks kind of fun. And then our last one is our little yellow man, and he I think he's holding on to like a tennis racket, but it also appears to be like a tennis racket attached to a hot air balloon, as he is being whisked away up in the sky, and the background is fading behind him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm guessing you play as like this little man as he goes through these different scenarios.
So basically, the game kicks off. You are a traveling salesman, and you are waiting to meet with the mayor. And the receptionist is basically saying, "Oh, thank goodness you're here, but the mayor's busy. Go check out the town." And it is a comedy of errors. You go back into this town, and you are basically walking into establishments. "Oh, thank goodness you're here. I need you to do this for me." And you're basically helping this town solve their problems or create problems for the town in an effort to just save it. Matt Berry voices one of the characters, by the way.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, of course he would.
So just, it's that level of dry Matt Berry this is painfully British.
Okay.
It's so good, Chase. I have been thinking about this game so much. It is a rare game that blends so many things that make art fun, and it puts it into just a very pristine package of a video game that never overstays its welcome. There are, like, mechanically, just so you kind of know what you're signing up for, there's literally a pause menu. You have no map, you have no objective, you have no notes.
Okay.
And I will tell you, I looked at nothing. I just went where I kind of thought I should go. And you do some backtracking, and like each time you do it, maybe something that you did over here has caused an issue over here now. And it is, oh my God, it is just one of the most clever, effortlessly funny, genuine games I have played in some time.
All right, I'm sold. I will play this. I did see, so I haven't watched any of the game being played. I did see that Jeff Gerstmann had a very similar compliment that you gave it of, games are so difficult to make funny,
Yeah.
and this one is relatively effortless with its timing and stuff. It feels good and it feels funny. When I first heard the name or saw the name before, I got this confused with While Waiting, which it still hasn't come out
I
yet.
can't wait to play that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's you have to wait. That's the
I
whole
have to
point of
wait.
the game.
That's the whole point.
But yeah, that kind of, so like that one's more of like almost like a Rhythm Heaven kind of thing, where it's like a lot of different little scenarios, where this seems to be kind of one connected story. But yeah, okay. I'll play this. It seems cool to me.
Really quick, this is made by Cole Supper. I don't know much about them, but it's published by Panic, makers of the Playdate.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think if you know the vibe of Panic, you kind of know the vibe of this in a way. Like, it's very art house, very, very, very fun. And I will say it has one of the best little pause menus, and it feels like a 1970s British sitcom almost when you're starting it up.
What's your favorite 1970s British sitcom, Bobby?
The Office.
I don't think that was the 70s, but you know what? Good enough. I'll give it to you.
Yeah, man. So I'm so glad I picked this one up. I saw it again. It's sitting at an overwhelmingly positive on Steam right now, and I think that's what drew my eye to it. But I've seen a lot of praise for it, and I'm very happy I checked it out.
Nice.
But on to the main fucking event. Let me pull up some details on SteamWorld Heist here, so we can make sure that we give the right folks information out there. This is made by Thunderful and published by Thunderful. $30 video game. I believe it's on all the major platforms, including
all the ones that matter.
Last Gen 2, right? I think that's correct.
I think that might be the case.
So
I wouldn't see why it wouldn't be able to run on those.
I think you've been on record saying SteamWorld Heist might be one of your favorite video games ever made.
It's up there. I think gun to my head, it is probably in like the top 15, top 20, somewhere around there.
I know about SteamWorld because of you. Mm-hmm. So I
know about SteamWorld because of our good friend Jiggy-san.
Okay.
He told me one day, he's like, "Oh, you should play this SteamWorld Dig game on the DS or 3DS. Or no, DS, right? Yeah, DS.
Yeah.
And so I grabbed that and had a real fun time playing it over like a Saturday, because that was a really short, tight game, and it just was great. But then they made other games, and one of those was SteamWorld Heist, and that was just so much more my shit. So to back it up for people, SteamWorld Heist is a tactical turn-based shooter. But what sets it apart from your other kind of tactics turn-based stuff, from your XComs and things like that, is that it has weapon sway, and the game I like to use as a reference point is Yoshi's Island, where you're throwing the eggs with Yoshi, and it'll kind of give you that sway. This gives you, it's a little bit more randomized sway, but it still has that kind of sway on the weapon. So there is like a reflex to it. because there are no percentages in this game. Well, that's not true. So there are like damage rolls on how much damage your weapon does,
Yeah,
and
like
maybe it gets a crit or
hey,
something
this
like
one does
that. Yeah,
4 to 5 damage, has
right,
splash,
right.
etc.
So there is a little bit of randomness there, but the hit or miss is not random. It is all your skill of aiming something correctly, hitting it at the right time to stop the sway, or using the sway to your advantage, like with a submachine gun or something that you know is going to kick up. So you get multiple hits if you position your gun correctly. Some of the guns have sights, so it makes it easier to aim. Some of them don't. Some of them you're able to add sites to in some way. That is one of the newer things with SteamWorld Heist 2. But the basic idea, and also it's a side scrolling game, so it's side scrolling, turn based, and it's really cool.
I want to call out that too. Like, I think this one compared to the first one, they've done some really impressive visuals. Like, I don't know how much it means to you, but there's a really awesome dynamic lighting system they've introduced into this that adds a depth, which is really awesome for being a 2D game. It's not like quite 2D HD, but I think they've done a really
Yeah.
great job here.
The first game was set in space. This one is set on kind of like a pirate
You were nervous
island
about
theme.
this. Are you still nervous?
I would still prefer space if I'm honest. I liked that aesthetic a little bit more, and I think I liked the way I think you get a little funkier with the guns when you were doing space stuff. I still like a lot of the action. I just don't necessarily care as much about the setting. But that's small potatoes in my mind, because I think they've been able to preserve so much with the gameplay quality that I'm still really happy with it. So one of the things that you'd get in the original SteamWorld Heist is that you'd have a crew of these robots, Steambots, and
Cowbots.
Cowbots. I don't think they're Cowbots, right? Because Cowbots is from like
I've seen Cowbots on the screen here.
Well, I thought Cowbots specifically were the ones from SteamWorld Dig, like in the Wild West thing. I thought they were just Steambots when they're in space, or when they're in when they're in the pirate thing. They're all interchangeable basically. They're robots that run on Steam. That's the important part. But your crew had specific classes in SteamWorld Heist, and you had this giant big burly guy, and he had the rocket launcher, and then you had a guy with a wheel for legs, and he was able to move farther, and he used a shotgun, so he was trying to flank people. And they've taken that concept, and I think for better and for a little bit worse, they have expanded it out to be any Steambot can be any class now. You can just reclass anybody at any time. And what I do like is you can kind of take bonuses from one class and apply them to a different class.
They've basically just brought over multi-class.
Yes.
Which is I mean, when I played Baldur's Gate, that was the big meta. I mean, it's a D&D thing for sure, but I think here it makes a lot of sense. And I haven't really done too much with it outside of that mission where they force you to, but I was hoping to get some meta from you on maybe min-maxing what that would look like.
Yeah, I think it's something you're going to continue to mess around with as you play. I also have mostly tried to keep people in their main class and their starter classes, because I want to get to the parts where I feel like I want to see like what the end of one of these skill trees looks like before I start really changing up the classes. But I have had one unit that I've experimented with a lot, where I put him in a class that has the submachine gun. It's the Reaper class, and the submachine gun has no aim to it. You just have to take a guess and aim it. So long range is not really going to happen with a submachine gun. You're not going to hit your stuff because you just kind of can't tell because they're so far away. But I put them in the sniper class for a little while, and one of the things you can get with the sniper class is +1 to aim. Mm-hmm. And so if you then go back to the Reaper class, but then open up those slots where you have the bonus to aim. Now your submachine gun it's not a perfect aim. It doesn't give you a full line, but it gives you a little bit of a line where you can start to line things up a little bit more and go, oh, okay, now I'm going to hit my shots from far away, or I'm going to hit my crits from close up because I have that little bit of of um,
That's
a
good to
guide
know.
telling me where
I
my
need.
hits are.
Is that for Wesley that you're doing that?
Yeah, I've been using it on Wesley a lot, but like again, anybody can slot into any class, so you could do it for anybody. One of the other things is like there's a class that just gives you extra movement, and
Mm-hmm.
so maybe you go into that class for a little bit just so you're able to get the +1 move, and then you flip over to another class where you might want to have that extra movement, which would be nice. Maybe I want that for my sniper so they can get into a really good position on turn 1 and then stay there and take shots from that single position on turns 2, 3, and 4, because they get bonuses if they shoot from the same place that if they haven't moved when they take a shot. Maybe they auto reload, which is reloading is something that only the sniper class has to do, but there are ways of gaming the system and getting around the reload by either using other class stuff or using your own class things to mitigate that.
How much time do you have in?
I think I've got like 8 hours. I think I'm like halfway through the 3rd area.
I wonder if it's just calculating. I mean, I'm at like 13 hours, and
Yeah,
I just got the 5 invitations for a parlay.
that's the one I'm on.
Okay, so
yeah, we're in the same kind of spot.
And I just found. So let me back up really quick. I appreciate the overview of like your history with it and where things are at. I'm trying to remember, Chase. So my history, you told me about SteamWorld at the time. I didn't have a way to play it, so I played on my phone. That was the first place I played it, and I found it really hard to get the aiming dialed in on my phone.
Sure, I can imagine.
But I powered through it, and then I ended up playing it when I got to 2DS and had a blast there. The loop seems different to my memory on what you're doing.
Yeah, it is. So in the original SteamWorld Heist, they had a map, and you would go from point to point. And when you got to a point, you could take on that mission. You could replay missions, and you could just kind of keep unlocking things on the map. Sometimes there'd be a challenge mission where you have to get through that to open up another area. Things would branch off at some points, but there were just it was kind of like a constellation, and you would go from point to point to point as you went around. This game, one of the things that they've done is expand that out into, it's not an open world, but there is an open overworld area, and you have a submarine. Your main character is a submarine captain. I also find it interesting that your main character is not part of the team. He can't. He doesn't have a class.
Really
He's
caught
not
off
a guy.
guard by that.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's something that maybe he shows up as a character later. Like he's only got one arm right now, so like the idea is like, oh, he wouldn't be very good in a fight, so maybe he gets a second arm at some point, or something happens where he's able to be a part of the crew. But at the moment, you have your crewmates, and you don't have to worry about the main guy because he's always just kind of on the comms for you. But they have this submarine now, so you can go around an overworld, and it generally works the same, where there are different points on the map where you take your submarine over to it, and you can do that mission and can continue looking around the maps. But now there's also just some loot that's sitting in the water, and you can go pick that up
with that too.
Yeah, there's enemy ships. There's an evil navy out there of a different kind of robot than your Steambots, and they're pissed at you. And the big driver here is that the water is going bad, and you're kind of trying to figure out the mystery of, one, why is the water going bad, and two, why is the navy hoarding the good water and leaving the Steambots to rust. So yeah, you'll have to fight some real-time ship battles that are kind of cool. You can equip your submarine with some different stuff, like some machine guns on either side or a torpedo on the front, and so you're taking on these kind of real-time battles, and if you destroy a ship, maybe they leave some extra loot in the water, you can go grab that too. But when you're talking about a loop, so you're doing all that stuff, but when you go into a mission, you pick your team, and you can have teams of generally like 2 to 4 for the maps that we've seen so far.
Yeah.
But when you're done with a level, your team is tired, and none of them are usable again until you go back to a bar and spend the night and reset things to go and do the loop again. Now if you have if you have 5 teammates and you go to a level that needs 2 people, and then you go to a level that has 3 people, you can do multiple levels
Yeah.
um, before going back to the bar. But yeah, I find there's a tedium of going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
There's
Where
definitely, it's a video game tactic here for sure.
Yeah, where the original SteamWorld Heist was like, okay, you completed a level, now go and complete another level, and it just kind of kept you a little bit more in the action. I understand why they do it. Like there are
Yeah.
benefits to going back to the bar. You're building up these bounty points, and you can spend them for big bonuses and things like that, extra weapons, or even just extra money. Um, and I guess it's a way of trying to get you to use more of your team at any one time. That if you want to get the bigger bounty scores, well, that means you have to use everybody on your team. Whereas the original SteamWorld Heist, in a lot of ways, you could just kind of rely on the same 4 crewmates and steamroll the game with just those 4.
I think that's what I wanted to like flag really quick is there's really 3 things that you're trying to achieve when you're out running. One is you're looking for water, because that's the currency that you use to buy items or crew members. There is then what are the pink jewels called again?
Yeah, what are they? Fragments. That's what they're called.
Fragments are used to upgrade your sub. They're used to upgrade your crew, and those are also used to unlock more upgrade boards that you get.
Mm-hmm.
And then to Chase's point, you get these bounties that go into your renown, I think is what it is. And that's also what's used to basically clear an area. But also, whenever you go back to the bar, you are resting your crew, but you're also resetting your sub health. And you are forced to turn in your collected bounties for the day. And when you go to a new bar, there's new bounties, and you can go through that and find items. So maybe you did the 2 and 3 run that Chase talked about, and you have 9 bounty. And the way they do it is like, hey, here's some items that are worth 2, here's some that are 7. And the place that Chase and I are at now, there's some actual like rare tier 3 weapons you can get. So you need to kind of gamify, like, okay, I have 5 or 6 people at this point in time on my crew. I think it's 5. Mm-hmm. And how can I go through and find like a 1-2-2 scenario where I get 15 to come back and get this melee axe? So there's a little like, all right, not only am I like doing this broader, like we're going to clear this up.
You should get that melee axe, by the way.
Is it good?
Melee axe is pretty cool.
Is it Rosie, the big pink robot? Is that her name?
Well, see, that's my other problem with this. Finish what you were talking about first, and then I'll talk about another thing that is somewhat bugging me, but I still like the game overall anyway.
I think for me, it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, I have my overarching order, which is to like move the story forward, but then it's like, all right, to Chase's point, I want to get this person to have these skills, so I'm going to go out and grind them on that a bit. I know that I want to get this apparently very cool melee axe that Chase is talking about, so now I'm going to go replay these things and try and get a run where I have 15. The other piece of it is, if you die, if your sub is destroyed, you lose what you're collecting, so you kind of have to like balance out, like, okay, I need to get back, like I'm at like 25% health, definitely got into some shit. So there's a very video game loop here that I appreciate that I did not think was present in SteamWorld Heist. But
it's not punitive exactly. Like, the worst thing that happens is, you lose your bounty points, but like you're not, there's no permadeath. You're not losing your characters. You're not losing your gear. You're not losing experience. You're not losing souls or whatever. But you're just missing out on these kind of bonus bounty points that you can just go and replay the missions anyway and get those bounty points right back again. You could grind bounty points if you really wanted to get the stuff. Yeah, I think for me it's more of just the time of it, of going back and forth between missions, where I just remember the original SteamWorld Heist of I just kind of liked playing the missions and continuing and going and going and going.
Yeah.
And now there is, because it's not just, you know, pick the place you want to go and go there. It is, you know, I've got to drive my sub there. I've got to remember the way. I've got to open the map and remember how to get there, and then I've got to remember how to get back. And I think there is just I understand what they're doing, but it does lead to a little bit of wasted time that is a bit of a feel bad in a game that is mostly feel good, because I think there are a lot of other big benefits to it. So you mentioned Rosie, and I just got her on my team, and I love her. But one of my other problems with one of the changes they made, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, the original SteamWorld Heist has classes for all your characters. There's, you know, again, the big one who's got the rocket launcher. You know, here's one that, yeah, you know, here's one that is the flanker. He's got the wheel, and he can move further. They had pistols. They didn't have snipers, but they worked the same. They had a long sight on them in the original SteamWorld Heist. So you had those characters who, you know, weren't really supposed to move when they took a shot, because then they could get bonuses for not doing that. But your classes were set, so you'd find characters, and I could see maybe the idea was like, oh, maybe somebody really liked a character but didn't like the class they were in, and that was a bit of a feel bad of like, oh, I wish I could play with this guy because I really like him, but I just don't like the way he plays. And the solution they seemed to come with was, well, you just put anybody in any class and it'll be fine. And that is cool, and I like the multi-class stuff that they're doing here. But the difference is the characters feel built for specific classes. Like Rosie is big. Rosie's got like a giant chassis on her, and you're like, oh, well, it makes sense that you're the brawler character type, and you should always want to be the brawler. But if you wanted to, you could just immediately reclass Rosie as a sniper for no, you know, it doesn't cost any currency to reclass somebody. In fact, it's as easy as just switching their weapon. And when you switch their weapon, they're like, oh, well, they're a sniper now. You gave them a sniper rifle, so they're a sniper. And so it feels a little incongruous to me to take these characters that feel like they were built to be in one class and then just throw them over to another class without any downsides to it.
I think with Rosie, wasn't there like a bonus like in one of the classes that she starts with, which was she was a brawler? Did she get like an extra stat or something, extra point? Like,
so that is like the closest thing they have, and it's not the class. It is like a character trait. So each character has a couple of traits. One of them's unlocked to begin with. Or actually,
hidden,
no,
right?
That's not true.
They're both hidden. You unlock them through like an unlockable board on the sub, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, like one of them isn't hidden, but you have to unlock it, and the other one is hidden and you can't even see what it does. So yes, Rosie has a specific one that if an enemy hits her with a melee attack, they'll take 2 damage back.
Yeah.
And there are also items. Like I just got an item that does basically the same thing.
I got that. It's awesome. It's
so you put that on Rosie, and it's like, oh great, now they'll take 4 damage when they touch Rosie. That's fantastic. So I guess in that way, yes, there is. Hey, if you play Rosie, you might want to play her as a brawler because she gets these bonuses to it, but they're still relatively small in the grand scheme of things. If you want to make Rosie a sniper and just keep her as a sniper the whole game, you absolutely can do that, and the game doesn't really punish you for it. And I guess I kind of wish it did. I wish that it would force you to make those decisions, so you couldn't just have 4 snipers on your team at any one time, or have 4 flankers and decide that's the way to go. It's one of the things with Fire Emblem that I really liked at one point, when you got to like Fire Emblem Awakening, where they gave you the option to do a lot of different reclassing, and that was kind of cool. Like, oh yeah, my thief is turned into an archer now. Isn't that neat? And it is neat, like the first time you play it. Or Fire Emblem Three Houses very much did the same thing, where you could level up somebody's flying ability, so now they can go into the flying classes. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I like that. But there also is a part of me when I play a Fire Emblem game. I like that people are locked to their classes. I like that the big knight guy is in the big knight guy class, and I've got to deal with that and figure that out. And there is something kind of cheating. It's not cheating. The game's built for it, but in the games where it's like, oh, I could just turn them all into cavalry guys. I find that to be a little bit lame, and I think it loses some of the what makes these characters special. And SteamWorld Heist 2, I don't feel as attached to most of these characters because they are so customizable that I barely they have their own little trait, and they all look different and they look cool. I think Sola is awesome. I like Sola with her like submariners,
yes.
Deep divers helm on. But for the most part, it's like, oh, I just need somebody to be a flanker. I guess I'll just throw the shotgun on this character so they can be a flanker now, rather than going like, that's my flanker character. I love that guy. He does all the flanking for me. So I mean, again, gameplay wise, it makes sense and it expands the game and it gives you so many more options. But there is something that feels a little less special about each character that makes me a little bit sad.
My closing thought on it would be this. This is one of the best games of the year.
Agreed.
Easily. I'm having just an absolute blast with it. I'm so excited I got to talk to you about it. Like, I've been kind of sitting on this conversation for a few days, and I've been actively avoiding asking you too much on text about it because I wanted this. But I'm going to make a pretty bold statement here. I think this is one of the perfect examples of how a sequel should be done. And while there's some changes they've made, I think that the core heart of what I took away from SteamWorld Heist, personally speaking, is here, and they've made smart additions to it overall that I think give me more of that I'm building a crew, because like I can then choose, like, and while I appreciate what you're saying and I think there's truth to it, these characters are clearly designed to be a certain play type, at least giving me some air of like, well, hey, my Rosie's actually more what kind of a hybrid of what Poe is, and I'm giving her more range to go and be up close to be more melee driven. Like, those are things that I'm doing to tweak her. But all that to be said, I think this is an absolutely fantastic video game, one that you and I will likely be spending a lot of collective effort talking about in December when we do our Game of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, I more or less agree with you when you say that it's kind of the perfect way to do it, or it's the way to do a sequel correctly. It does have more stuff in it. Expands on systems. It gives you more things to do. It changes up some of the gameplay things, like the the way the map worked, and now it works as an overworld. And the reclassing stuff. It does give you a bunch of new stuff, but it also does remember what the game is. It is that side-scrolly, turn-based tactical shooter, and those mechanics are still there. One of the other hallmarks of the game is that it has these wacky weapons that you can collect, some unique weapons that do some really cool things. And I don't think they show up as frequently as the first game, maybe not quite as frequently, but they're still in there and they do some really cool things. Like, I have a sniper that does splash damage, which is really cool.
I just found a banjo sniper. I haven't used it yet.
Okay, I have not seen that yet, but I can't wait to find it and play
It's a literal banjo with a bullet hole on it.
I love it. That's great. But when I think about sequels done right, I also think about Risk of Rain 2. And we've talked about this on the show and other places as well. But like, that's a game that more or less completely changed. Like, it added an extra dimension to the fucking game. It went from a 2D game to a 3D game.
Like that's like a reinvention.
Right. And that's what I really liked about it.
Same thing.
Yeah, and that's what I really liked about it, is that it felt like it didn't really discount the first game. It just made like a second separate experience, and they feel spiritually similar because of the the items that are in there, or the specific goals for the game, but they feel extremely different too. Whereas this one, it is just more SteamWorld Heist, in some sense, but also SteamWorld Heist is really fucking good, so giving me
It's
more of that is not bothering me whatsoever.
it's nice to be in the meta for this one. It's nice to be in the zeitgeist of it. I came to the party late the last time, and I'm excited that we got one of these. And
Absolutely, I was worried they weren't going to make another one. So when I back in the old days when I had Gamers on the Go, my podcast about handheld games, I had Brian Seekerson on, who was the head of, at that time, Image and Form, but now Thunderful. And you know, we were talking about SteamWorld Dig, I believe, or SteamWorld Dig 2, I believe. Were we talking about Heist? I don't fucking remember. We were talking about one of them. And I do remember bringing up, like, you know, SteamWorld Heist is really good. You know, I think we'd ever get a second one of those. And you know, it's like, you know, who knows, maybe someday. But then, you know, we got the card game, and we got SteamWorld Dig 2, and we got another handful of SteamWorld games after that. I kind of figured, and then we got the Gunk, and I'm like,
and
we're
Build.
never.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, right, SteamWorld Build 2. I was like, we're never going to see a SteamWorld Heist 2. That's sad, because, you know, that's the one I love, but maybe it just wasn't the popular one. Dig is the one that everybody loves, so we're just going to see more SteamWorld Dig. But we got it, and it's really good, and I'm glad that more people are checking it out, and I think even more people should check it out, because it's really cool. And honestly, if you haven't played the first game and you're liking what you're playing of this one, when you're done, the first game is still fucking excellent, and it's on everything.
I didn't mention this, but you can get so right now, if you want the complete SteamWorld catalog, you can get it for $58 on Steam.
It's a pretty good deal.
That's every single game they've made, all the DLC for it, all the art, all the soundtracks. That's the complete bundle.
I don't think it includes SteamWorld Tower Defense, which was the very first one, because that was a that was a DSiWare game.
Okay.
I've never even played that one.
But they're all very heavily discounted. I mean, if you're watching this live, you've got 14 hours to go and buy anything discounted there from them.
Yeah.
But also, as I mentioned earlier, Chase, you did a whole series on SteamWorld Heist, and that's available on Chase and K Plays. So maybe if you are like, hey, I want to play SteamWorld Heist 2, like, go and watch that. Chase takes you through the game. You can just follow along with him and get expert advice on the game. But you should also play it. I just re-downloaded it on my phone. I was going to fire it up and just see if there's some immediate differences there, but...
Yeah, the original SteamWorld Heist is really good. I mean, I guess you can't play it on a 3DS anymore because the eShop's down, but that's where I first played it. I played it on my Switch multiple times. I played it on my PlayStation 4. I played this game a lot. It is on Steam. You could certainly play it on a PC if you wanted to. And it's also really cheap. So if you, like I said, if you finish SteamWorld Heist 2 and you're like, man, this is great, I'd like more of this, I think that first game still holds up as a really, really good game.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap it up here. If you want to follow along with some cool stuff we've got going on, you can hit those links up there. He's not on right now. I don't know why, but Seabrass from SteamWorld Heist is actually our new resident bot here.
I miss Seabrass so much. They should have put Seabrass in this game.
I know. Seabrass is one of the coolest characters. This week, Chase and I went back to a classic on Monday. We played Monster Train. Game continues to be good. Also, it's coming to Apple Arcade early September. So if you are watching or listening, that game will be in your pocket, which is dangerous. Tonight, we just spent a lot of time telling about the games that we've been playing. And Friday night, it's going to be Mario Kart with friends. We've got a handful of our community from our Discord and prior streams. And old casual host, Johnny, is actually going to make a return back to a Friday. It's weird. He said that he'd be here every Friday still, but...
well, he's filled with COVID right now, so
he's filled, with excuses.
Bullshit.
Yeah, bullshit. But yeah, Johnny will be back on Friday, and Jiggy might make an appearance, but Zoe, who's been on, will be there, and our friend Whipped, and Phil, I think, will be there. So tune in. We always have a great time. It's always one of my favorite things we do is play Mario Kart with our friends, and we'll be doing that on Friday night. Chase, we've teased your stuff quite a bit here, but there's a link in chat now and a link on the show notes if you're listening for Chase's link tree here. But what do you got going on, man?
Yeah, go check out that YouTube channel we talked about. I do have a playlist of a full playthrough of SteamWorld Heist, the original. But also what I'm currently playing is Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising in a series I call Black Hole Sun. And I'm playing the Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp version, which has been fine. I miss those pixels, but it's still a really good game. The newest episode that just came out today, I think there's some really cool maps in Advance Wars 2 that I was not expecting to be as cool and interesting as they are. These last couple weeks of Black Hole Sun have been really cool, so definitely go check those out. And then I've got another podcast that I do with good friend of the show, Pierce Corshane. It's called Pilot Program, where we watch the first episodes of every television show ever made. Our last episode was on the 2004 ABC show Lost, which was really interesting to go back to, and I think Pierce and I had a solid conversation about that. But we're about to come upon our 25th episode. I can't believe we've done 25 of these things. And for that episode, we decided to go and talk about one of our mutual favorite shows, a show that helped us become friends, and that is Mad Men. So very excited to talk about Mad Men, a show that means a lot to both me and Pierce. So I think we're recording that next Thursday, next week. So it should be up probably certainly by the end of August. But that'll be a really good one. And looking forward to giving that to all you guys. So go to shows.acast.com/pilot program, check out all of our old episodes, and then be waiting for that Mad Men one, because it's going to be good.
Awesome, man. And Chase, I'm just so thrilled we had this episode. I'm really glad we got to talk about that game.
Yeah,
I'm glad it hit. It's been a real fucking treat. And looking forward to playing some more games with you on Friday. We'll be back with you all then. Check out the links in our show notes and here on chat to go and follow some of those things we were linking to for Chase's other work, including Pilot Program and Chase K Plays, where you can find the playthrough for SteamWorld Heist.